case which you are referring to. If it's about Asmio, I remember very well that letters have been written to us, and in most cases, responses have been given. We engaged presidential candidates and running mates in a meeting and went through a lot of issues and explained almost all the issues, and they addressed their concerns. And so when you come up and say there are trust issues, for me, I don't understand. But of course, this is an electoral process. As I said, as a commission, we operate within the framework of the law, the constitution, and the laws of the land, and that's what we follow. And our doors are open for all stakeholders to work in and ask us any questions.
Okay.
Yes.
My colleague Ken has some more on that.
Right, Chairman, my question is also about the trust that the stakeholders have. On the 2nd of June, the Deputy President and the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, William Ruto, said that a number of his voters, about 1 million of them, had been moved from their polling stations to other polling stations. And in fact, the IEBC confirmed weeks later by even gazetting those places that they perceived the votes to have been moved, although you scale down the numbers from the 1.1 million. The question is this is a player in this election. How did the team for Deputy President William Ruto know that his voters, not just voters being moved, said his supporters have been moved from one location to the other? This was before the KPMG report. This was before even you spoke about the register. How did they know this happened, Chairman?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I don't know how they knew. Maybe that question should be addressed to the Deputy President who came up with the statement. But what I do know is that we had the KPMG report, and the recommendations of that report, including the issue you are raising about the transfers, came as a result of that report. And that's how then we address the issues after that. So how that information then was available to the candidate for Kenya Kwanza, I don't know.
But then, Chairman,
yes,
the problem with this is this. This is a candidate in this election. You don't know how they knew. There are people who have access to your system. Do you think this information came from your system? Because you confirmed it later through even the KPMG report that indeed there are voters who had been moved. The concern, however, is not even about the voters. How he knew his voters were moved. Does it bother you that a candidate would have such details that later is confirmed by a report?
Let's put it this way. The information of 1 million is not correct. So let's start from there. So if we start from there, then we can say that if the information is not correct, then why are we worried about that information? Maybe perhaps the only thing we can talk about now is the fact that there was some cases of movement of transfers, which were very, very few cases. I think there were less than, 5,000 cases. So if you look at that with the 1 million movement, you see, we are talking about two different things here.
But the admission, Chair, the admission is there was movement. How did that movement occur? The admission is, even if there were two voters, there was movement. How did it occur?
Now, that has been explained in the audit report. The Commission instituted investigations, and the report of the investigations came out last week. 5 officers of the Commission then were involved in that issue, and the file has since been taken to the DPP for further investigation and prosecution. So I think the report is there with the DPP, and that then explains how that movement took place. So I don't think the two issues then can be
Chairman, whether you're saying that the Deputy President said it is 1 million and you're saying that it is less than 5,000 or 5,000 thereabout, as my colleague Ken Mijungu puts it, is that that's an admission that probably somebody would use to say that and amplify the question of trust within yourselves as a commission, and actually put it out there that there are people who are leaking information to the main candidates outside there?
I would not, when you are running an organization, a lot of things happen. And I've just given you an example of 5 officers who have been found wanting, and there's a report with the DPP. Perhaps when the DPP concludes investigations and prosecutes them, then we shall be able to know the details of that.
But also,
However,
Chairman, you agree,
yes, yeah.
you agree that there is an audit report that got to your table last week that you forwarded. Why would you not, in a process in a process like this one, where you know that there are trust questions in it, why would you not embrace Kenyans on such a matter, knowing that it is already causing consternation?
We did. We appraised Kenyans. We held a press conference here, released the audit report, and we spoke to it. Maybe it didn't come to your attention, but we addressed the issue about the audit report and the issues around the transfers, which were...
Chairman, we'll get back to the specific issues about the audit report, but let's first of all conclude with the questions of trust.
All right, and this goes perhaps to the CEO, and it's in line with what my colleagues have asked. And perhaps to quote what the Deputy President said, he said, and I quote, many of those names are people from what we consider our strongholds, so there is a clear attempt to try monkey business. 28 days to the polls, can IEBC tonight say that it is not involved in any monkey business ahead of the polls?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to correct the statement. That's not what the Deputy President said.
That's what he said on June 2nd.
He didn't say that his voters were moved. In fact, he said actually they were actually removed, not even moved.
No, he said many of those names are people from what we consider as our stronghold.
No.
Specific, wasn't he?
First of all, let's go to specificity. The 1 million he talked about was not about being transferred. He said were removed. Right. And I said that I challenge anyone who has got evidence to that effect. Because I even said that we came from 2017 with a figure of 19.6 million voters. And we registered about 3.2 million. So if you add, and with the process that we did of removing the dead voters and those ones that had issues, it resulted to 22.1 million. So if you do your mathematics, you will see actually there was nothing wrong in terms of enrollments. The issue actually, when the issue was raised, the chairman actually said that the issue is not about voters being removed. It's about transfers. So actually pointed about transfers. And transfers, how did we realize it? It's during the verification process. That's when we realized actually there were issues, because when we subjected the register of voter to the people for them to go and verify their details, some started complaining. And now we started to investigate internally what really happened. We personally, actually, me, I was the first one to write after we discussed the same in plenary. I wrote to all the county election managers that we are getting information regarding transfers and we need to validate that. So we want them to actually check their records and report to us on the same. In fact, we even told them that you need to actually collect, the county election managers were informed to collect all the forms for transfers and actually deliver them to the CEO's office. Okay. That was the start of the investigation regarding these transfers. It is not because the Deputy President raised it, it's because we actually noticed it during verification process.
Okay. Chairperson, a week to the repeat poll on the 26th of October 2017, you addressed the Kenyan people and you said in the circumstances at the moment, you couldn't guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. Why should Kenyans trust you in 2022 that you can deliver free and fair elections?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We have been working on this election from 2018. After the 2017 election, we commenced the journey to the 9th of August, this year's election. We did the post-election evaluation report. We made recommendations for legal reforms. Unfortunately, they have not seen the light of the day. As a commission, we've done a strategic plan. We prepared the election operation plan, which we are working on. And where we are where we're supposed to be as far as the election operation plan is concerned. So in terms of preparation for the 9th of August, the team has actually done what it ought to do, and the commission is ready to deliver to Kenyans free, fair, and credible election. So I don't think then you can relate this with the issues about 2017.
Why I bring up that point is that when you talk about preparations, however, You haven't been a team, a unit or a block. I'm talking about the fleeing of Dr. Olusegun Akombe days before the repeat poll. April 2018, the resignation in a half of Commissioners Margaret Mwachanya, Dr. Paul Kurgat, and your Vice Chairperson, Connie Mainangkatha. And there was a vacuum until the bringing on board of the other commissioners. How prepared are you? I mean, there's the trust deficiency in the commission because Kenyans are looking at you with obloquy.
I saw a TIFA report yesterday saying the 60% of Kenyans trust the IEBC. I don't know if that's for you. For me, it looks good. For you, I don't know. But in terms of preparation for election, we as a commission, we are working together and we actually ready to deliver the upcoming polls. Yes.
Chairman, kwa afisa mkuu wa IEBC, tumeona Bwana Chebukati amesema kwamba 60% juzi ilisema kwamba ina imani na nyinyi. Kuna hawa 40 ambao wamebaki. Nyinyi kama tume, pengine ni masuala gani ambayo mnayafanya sasa? Siku 26 zimesalia kujaribu kushinda ama kupata ile imani ya ile 40% iliyobaki.
Nafikiri masuala ya trust ni tunasema kimombo perception, vile watu wanafikiria. Na watu wengi ambao watapiga kura ni wale watu ambao tunawaita mama mboga, ni wale wa chini ambao pengine hawafikii na information ambao tunawapelekea. Kwa hivyo sisi tunajaribu kwa sasa kuhakikisha kuwa zile information ambazo nzuri zitakana ziwafikie zinawafikia. Kama kwa sasa tumeanza kuzungumzia kuhusu ukienda kwenye polling station ni nini utahitajika kufanya. Kuna mambo kama ya teknolojia sasa tunayaongeleza. Tunataka waelewe kwa nini tunasema tuende namna hii na si kwa ile njia nyingine. So ni utaratibu ambao tunajaribu kufuatilizia kuhakikisha tuna concentrate na mama mboga as opposed to politicians. I think tumekuwa tukiongea sana na kuhusu masuala ya politicians. Lakini sasa tunataka ku move away from that. Tuende kwa yule mtu ambaye yuko chini kabisa apate kuelewa ni nini tunafanya katika commission.
Tukisalia hapo kwa wanasiasa, mbona kuna masuala ambayo yameibuka hususan kutoka mrengo wa Azimio. Mfano le swala la kwamba kuna maafisa ambao watakuwa wanafanya kazi katika hii shughuli nzima ya uchaguzi kwamba wametoka katika jamii moja. Sijui kama mnakubaliana na swala hilo ama pengine mnaweza kujiondoa vipi kwa swala hilo.
Hatukubaliani na swala hilo kwa sababu nafikiri ukiangalia katika tume zote ama serikali, maagents zile za serikali, kama kuna tume ambayo inafanya recruitment kwa usawa ni actually ni commission, kwa sababu sisi tukifanya recruitment tunafanya kwa constituency. It is constituency facing. Inamaanisha kama kwa mfano tuko na county kama 8 za kutoka Rift Valley, tutapata watu kutoka huko. Kama kuna county 3 kutoka North Eastern za Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, tutapata kutoka huko. Kwa hivyo watu ambao tunawaajiri kazi wana represent face of Kenya. Na kulingana na utaratibu wetu hawawezi kufanya kazi pale mahali wameandikwa. Wataenda kufanya kazi mahali pengine na hawawezi kufanya kazi mahali ambapo wametekeleza wajibu wa kutekeleza kura mbeleni. Kwa hivyo tunafanya mikakati kuhakikisha kuwa kuna transparency na pia mtu aweze kwenda mahali ambapo alifanya election.
All right, Chairman, of course my colleagues have still more questions to raise with you, but in 2017 part of the reason that election ended up the way it did, and you admitted at some point there was a bit of division within the commission. Part of it was actually political. This time round you have the 3 commissioners, including yourself, who've been there through it all, and 4 new commissioners. There's again a perception that there could be some political alignment of some of those commissioners. How then do you face Kenyans and tell them that you are leading a unified unit, that there are no political interests interfering with the I in IEBC?
Thank you. I think as a commission, how we operate is we have plenary meetings where we discuss issues and make decisions at that level after committees have sat and presented their papers. And then we are guided by those decisions, which then we pass over to the CEO and his team then to implement. So to the extent of running the commission, that's how we operate. And if in the board meetings, there are always issues. We could have some differences, but the majority carry the day. And to me, that's how we are moving forward. So as to whether there's interference with political dispensations from outside, that perhaps may not be within my knowledge. But what I know is we make decisions, we move on, and that's how we are going to deliver the election.
Chairman,
yes.
Just last week, on the question of the arrival of ballot papers in this country,
yes.
One of your vice chair said that you had called the previous night to say that the ballot papers were coming the next day.
Yeah.
One question that we will ask, for how long had you known that the papers were coming the following day? And isn't it questionable that the commission did not know that the ballot papers were arriving the next day, yet there are some members of the secretariat that knew and were running the show? Who is running the show? Is it the commission or the secretariat, or you're working in unison?
Yeah, this is how it works. The commission deals with policy, strategy, and oversight. That's our work. We make decisions. If it's about printing ballot papers, we tell secretariat, go and procure a firm, and then we move on. When it comes to printing ballot papers, then they tell us this is how we are going to print. These are the samples. Then we tell them proceed and print. So in the process, there's a team called a contract implementation team, a CIT, which then takes the responsibility of ensuring all those processes, including ballot proofing for purpose of ballot papers, and including the issue of how they'll be, freight will be done and so forth. And so this team was on top of things. I think on the 6th in the evening at 8 p.m., that's when I also got a call that we have the first batch arriving the following day. And I informed the commissioners. And we had another function on the 7th with the Kenya Daima. And I had to go for that function, take half the commissioners to the airport, half remained behind. So there's nothing fishy about that. But the team in charge is the contract implementation team. And like now they have a schedule all the way up to 29th as to how those ballot papers are being ferried. So I don't think you should read any mischief in that.
It's very good that you've mentioned the word schedule.
Yes.
Because it is very interesting, or somebody will view it as so, that you will be called a day just before the papers arrive in the country, and you're told tomorrow, and you have to divide your commissioners, yet you know that in the coming days, we should be receiving the first batch on this day, so that everybody is prepared. Don't you think that would raise questions even to those who view as it from their naked eyes?
Let me put it this way. Why did the commission go to the airport? It's not actually our work to receive and sign for the ballot papers. It's just symbolic for the country that we have witnessed the coming of the ballot papers, and then we left to the team to continue their work. So it's not the core business of the commission to be involved in receiving materials, procuring, logistics. We just do an oversight role.
Okay. Thank you. Chairman, I want us to transition to the next topic, but it would be unfair not to hear from the CEO, especially on that claim that you informed, or rather, Chairman has actually confirmed it, that you informed the commissioners that late. Is it how you work, or it was an oversight, or that was the plan anyway?
Thank you very much. No, it's not the plan. Actually, you must have realized that we are doing a lot of things concurrently. And even that week also, the other commissioners were involved in the dispute resolution committee for 10 days. The only people who were actually behind was actually me and the chairman. And we are trying to manage activities within the commission, whereas they were actually at Milimani, they were trying to manage the dispute resolution committees, and they were doing this work very, very late. By the time they finish, actually, is the time when now we are just about to receive the ballot papers. And chairman has actually put it rightly that we have a contract implementation committee that is responsible for that. So for us, going to the airport is basically just to show the country that we are serious. Mm-hmm. And now we are receiving the first batches. It is not a big deal as actually people are putting it. Okay. But maybe it may have rubbed shoulders differently with the different people. So, and we said here that people have different feelings. Maybe if we had informed them earlier on, maybe they would have felt better. But it did happen, but we know there is a team that is responsible for that.
That's interesting, and unfortunately, we have to transition to the next topic.
Perhaps one last question on the trust issue. And this goes to you, Chairman. You have answered Martha Karua and the claims she has made on her not having confidence in IEBC. We're talking of stakeholders. UDA also in a protest letter alleged the meddling of the elections by government officials, specifically ministries. They mentioned Matiang'i as CS and Joe Musheru, two CSs whom this is a key stakeholder has mentioned. 26 days to the polls. How independent is IEBC, given that it is the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission?
Yes, I think that's a good question. And I want to state categorically that IEBC, the one of today, the one you see, is independent, is not answerable to any individual or authority. We do our work in accordance with the law. We are only answerable to the Constitution and the laws of the land. And that's how we have operated. And that's why you have seen, if you have been following up, that we don't allow external forces to come and influence what we do. So I just want to assure you.
And are there external influences that are trying to dictate to you on how to do things? Be it in government or outside government?
We have had our challenges. Okay. We had challenges when, remember the time there was some multi-agency team formed and they wanted us in. We said we shall not participate in that. We have had financial challenges where the commission is tapped of funds until this financial year. And that has had a great impact on our activities. We have had challenges where I think somebody in the executive wrote to the foreign the donors not support the commission. We have had our challenges, but we have stood the ground, and here we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Chairman, let's make progress and speak about the integrity, because in this election, Kenyans were hoping that they would face on the ballot people of integrity, because Chapter 6 is as old as the Constitution. Today, there was a judgment in Mombasa that directs your commission to clear Governor Mike Sonko or process his presentation to be a governor candidate for Mombasa. Just recently, there was another order to IEBC to process the candidature of Karungo Thang'wa for Senate in Kiambu County. Are you comfortable with these decisions? And if at all you believed in the decisions you had made at the point of returning officers, at the dispute resolution committees, are you satisfied, and what are you going to do about it?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think when it comes to the judiciary, we have had incessant court decisions, some conflicting, and then it puts the commission in an awkward situation. But as a commission, then we must obey the court orders and enforce the court orders. So you talked of the Kiambu and Mombasa, it's a court order, so it will have to be enforced and complied with. But notwithstanding that, I think I'm aware the issue around impeachment has been ongoing, and there is even a case in the Supreme Court which will be heard, I think, tomorrow. So I believe for the future there will be clarity along that line. But for us, how we operate, we follow the law, we implement the court orders as they come, and we don't have a choice on that.
But Chairman, yes, a High Court decision can be challenged at the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
Will you?
Yeah. In terms of the matter of Songo,
yes.
Let me put it this way. 26 days to election, we must finish printing ballot papers. Actually, we are even late in making changes to the ballot papers. So in most of these cases where we are, we don't have time to take another action. I have not read the judgment. I believe the team will read the judgment. But as a commission, we would want to finalize this process so that we can give Kenyans a credible election on the 9th of August. We cannot have a situation where we want to then to say we are not ready for that particular elective position. But so we shall implement the judgment, and then if there are any other issues on the impeachment area, I'm sure they'll be cleared as we go along.
Okay.
Chairman,
future.
this is
Yes.
very interesting because this flies in the face of Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Yes.
Was it even necessary to be included in the Constitution? I mean, from your experience and practice of Chapter 6 and looking at the expectations, as it puts it, versus the outcome, right now in this election, there are a lot of people who ordinarily, from the face of it, Kenyans will have not been voting for, but that's going to happen. So your experience working with Chapter 6 and even attempting to implement it, was it even necessary? And what are the challenges you have as a commission with implementing Chapter 6? Is it the courts? Or is it your own technicalities? Because even in the case of Sonko, you've just mentioned a technicality. Just because of time constraint, 26 days to the election, you will not be challenging this, right? So what is the issue? Was it even necessary to begin with? Because it looks as though we have not even implemented it.
Yes, I think that's a good question. As a country, we have a very good constitution, Chapter 6, very good. But the constitution cannot operate on its own. It needs legislation to operate. If you look at the legislation around Chapter 6, the Leadership and Integrity Act, it's a very weak legislation. If you look at it insofar as the elective positions are concerned, there's only one small paragraph, Section 13C, which says if you want to vie for an elective position, you fill a form, self-declaration form, and take it to IEBC to be cleared. That's all it says. It doesn't say anything else. So the first thing we are talking about here is weak legislation around implementation of Chapter 6.
And these legislations, for the record, are about 6 that support that provision in the Constitution. So it's not just one, but proceed. Because if you base it only on that one, it will look as if it's only that legislation.
So there's weak legislation, number one. Number two, there's no case law that has defined how we then wish to move. Where there's weak legislation, then the judiciary comes in and can give the way forward. Now, what you are seeing now, we had cases where the impeachment was for Sonko was I think he filed the first cases in the High Court, and the High Court upheld the impeachment by Senate. But now what we are having now is can the High Court is saying he should stand. So there's a bit of incessant.
Okay, Chairman, are your hands tied? By the there are names that you gave to the EACC for investigation. EACC gave you a list of over 240. Then you came back and said that your hands are tied and you cannot do anything with regards to this. I think out of the list of 240 40 names that you've given, it's only 2 that you actually acted upon. Look at it.
Yes,
From 240, you only acted. Are your hands tied? Are you giving up?
No. I think that's not the case. Let me tell you how we looked at the list from EACC.
Okay. Yeah.
There is Article 75 of the Constitution, which talks about impeachment and the issues around state officers and public office. Then we have Article 93(3), which talks about other cases where one may have been found guilty, convicted for more than 6 months, and then he has an appeal which has not been concluded. And that also goes with Article 193(3), which is about members of the County Assembly. 93(3) is about the members of National Assembly. So what then our understanding is that Article 75 is a standalone insofar as the issue of impeachment is concerned. But what the court in Mombasa has said is that Article 75 and 93 are conjoined, and you cannot separate. So long as anybody has an appeal, whether it's about impeachment or not, then he has to exhaust that appeal before then he is barred from contest. It's a legal issue, it's a constitutional issue, and I think the judiciary...
Chairman, because you also need to involve, the Chief Executive Officer, if you feel so strongly about what you're saying, why will you implement a decision that you think flies against the Constitution? Why don't you just appeal and apply for a stay?
I
Nataka kuongezea swali.
Yes.
Swali langu linaoana na la Sam kidogo, kwa hivyo acha nilirushe pamoja kwa afisa mkuu. Hamuoni kama iwapo saizi mnasema hamtakata rufaa kwa sababu ya muda haupo, hamuoni kama mtakuwa mumeanzisha jambo ambalo pengine miaka 5 ijayo tupate swala kama hili, alafu tume itakayokuwa itake kukata rufaa na ilhali saizi hamjakata rufaa kwa kusema tu kwa sababu ni muda hamna? Hamuoni kama mtakuwa mmeweka jambo ambalo miaka 5 ijayo mtu atajitokeza aseme mbona miaka 5 iliyopita hamkufanya hivyo?
Kwangu mimi naona kwanza ni kwa sababu ya kuwa hii kesi bado inasikilizwa katika Supreme Court. I think tumeelezewa na chairman ya kuwa kesho itasikizwa, alafu pengine Ijumaa labda kutakuwa na determination. Kwa hivyo ni mzuri kungojea tusikize mwanzo ni nini kitatokea. Alafu baada ya hapo ndio tutaweza kuamua kama sasa tutakata rufaa ama ni vipi. Lakini kwa sasa ni muhimu mwanzo tusikize nini itafanyika katika Supreme Court. I think hapo kwetu ni muhimu sana.
Okay. All right. Chief Executive, it's important that you are circumspecting around the nitty-gritty details of the court matter. But the case of the ex-Nairobi County Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko and the case of Karungu Athanga was based chiefly on integrity, which is a key ingredient and a component of our constitution. Now, because of time constraints, the chairman and the commission say we have to move on. But in future, your 10 years expiring, you'll be leaving office. Isn't this not, while you're hell-bent now on the implementation of that very important aspect of the law, going forward, a bad precedent set that you have given up and in not exhausting the appeal process, in wanting to completely lock these candidates out because you believe that in a democracy, they don't deserve to be on the ballot because of gross violation of the law?
No, let me say like this, first of all. I think maybe there's misunderstanding here. We are saying that as a commission, we have not made a decision as to whether we are going to appeal or not. But for us, what is important is for us to wait for the Supreme Court to actually assert themselves in that case. Because this case is still, the reason why Mombasa Court has taken that decision is because there is a case actually in Supreme Court. There's an appeal. And there for them they are to take that decision. And what Chairman has explained is that there is difference in interpretation of two sections of the law, whereas we see one as standalone. The others are seeing them as actually being twin. They are joined in the hip. So if there is a case that is outstanding, I think the best thing to do, we only have 2 days. So the best thing is just to wait.
Okay.
And for example, if the case is going to be favorable, we don't know what is going to happen in Mombasa. Suppose they uphold the earlier decision that, yes, he was actually impeached properly. What is going to happen? So it's important for us to wait and not to jump the gun.
Thank you.
So even now you will not receive his papers?
Yes?
Even right now that the courts have agreed to this, have ordered so, Sonko's papers will not be received until that decision by the Supreme Court is given.
Well, now, you see, that is the decision of the returning officer. You see, even the chairman cannot actually tell the returning officer what they need to do.
But the returning officer does not work in isolation. He's part of the commission, is he? He's an employee.
Yes, we provide advice, but ultimately he or she takes the decision.
You mean you're not in touch with the returning officer?
No, we do. But ultimately, the decision is going to be that of the returning officer.
Okay.
Really, that doesn't sound right, that a returning officer in Mombasa would make a unilateral decision to the exclusion of the IEBC, the secretariat right here. That's what it sounds like.
Let me just add to that.
Yes.
The judgment was delivered today.
Yes.
Our legal team will look at it and advise the returning officer on
what to do.
What to do.
But now even sitting here,
yes,
the two of you are speaking at cross purposes. The chairman said, with 26 days left to the election, he was very explicit, we have to print the ballot papers. So to him, he had given the basis of our questions tonight, all of us, based on what the chairman said. To you, we should wait for the judgment. Even right now here, you're divided in that opinion. What happens? Do we wait for the court or we do what the chairman says, which is we have 26 days, we have to do this, you know? So litigation has to end at some point. That's what we get tonight.
No, we're actually very clear. We are not divided, by the way. I think that is your perception. But we are very clear in terms of when should the ballot paper printing end. Remember, we had suspended printing of ballot paper for Mombasa governor. We had. Why? Because we are waiting for the court to determine the case. Yes.
So you have now lifted the suspension?
Yeah. Because
no, we actually stopped printing papers for
Mombasa.
Yes, and not just Mombasa. There was another case also whereby we had been stopped by the court to print the ballot papers.
Okay.
We had suspended printing of ballot papers in those areas because of the court.
Chairman, tell me something. Is it possible, for example, not to hold an election in one area and wait for perhaps after the general election because of these court cases? Is that a possibility that the law affords you? And if it affords you, would that be something that you'd want to do? Because there's a divide over this. Is it a possibility?
Yes, I think the law provides that in certain cases where the commission finds itself in an impossible situation to run an election in a particular unit, it can respond that election. But we, of course, we are not hoping to do that in any of the elective units in the country.
CEO,
all right,
CEO, there are some questions.
On candidates and the clearance of candidates. We have talked of the law and the legality to that extent. Yeah. There are candidates who accuse IEBC of bias in its clearance. I make reference, for example, to Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who was a presidential candidate in the 2017 election, Ruben Kigame, who intended to vie for this presidential position. Just for purposes of clarity, because they have quite a following, to be fair, and in a liberal democracy as such, why were they disqualified? Is it that they did not meet your requirements, or as they claim, the commission is biased towards them?
Yes, we have, as I said, we operate within the framework of the Constitution and the laws and the regulations. We don't just make decisions. All returning officers, including myself, we follow the law. And there was then the law in place that time was that among the things that a candidate was to provide was a supporters list of 2,000 for a minimum of 24 counties and supported by copies of ID cards. That was the law then. I know the High Court has ruled that IDs are not necessary now. So that's now going forward. I believe that then will be.
These are candidates, Chairman, who have paraded what they say was the legal requirement to allow them to be on the ballot. Yeah, they read mischief.
Yes, there's no mischief. It was done here in this room where we are transparent. What we did then was ask them to submit to us soft copies of the supporters lists and hard copies of supporters list with copies of the IDs. And most of them, if you look at the nomination forms, the reasons for rejection are given on the nomination forms. So you must interrogate those nomination forms before you know why they were rejected. But in most cases...
Just for purposes of clarity, yes, for the sake of Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who was a presidential candidate in 2017, why was he disqualified from the 2020?
Yeah, he did not meet the requirements.
Which were?
Which included failure to submit hard copies with copies of the IDs. That was the requirement that time. And if you look at this nomination form, there are also other reasons which were given for his rejection.
But Chairman, now, some of these candidates say that you accorded some candidates more time to get these signatures, given that it was not as elaborate as they would have wanted it to be. Don't they have a right to read?
Okay, let me put it this way.
Yes.
Some of those cases are still in court. I really don't want to discuss them right here in this forum.
Okay. Of course, we're not discussing the details of those cases. Those are cases that will determine the election in 26 days, isn't it?
Yeah, but some have not been concluded. So I don't want to prosecute court cases here. Okay. Because as you know,
we are not discussing the details.
Chairman and CEO, I need us to make progress. And of course, Kenyans can join this conversation by tweeting us their questions using the hashtag Chebukati Speaks 2022. Of course, Chebukati Speaks is also inclusive of the CEO here, Marjan Hussein Marjan. And as we exit from this topic, I would want to hear from you, because we're at a time, he is talking of 26 days, too close to the election. But also look at how other candidates have been cleared in this election, including the Nairobi governor candidate, that is Johnson Sakaja, was cleared on 7th of July. It was at the tail end of that window of clearance. How difficult is it, especially for IEBC, to deal with questions of integrity of documentation presented to you at a time that you have no authority to vet documents like what has been presented in this election?
Well, it makes life very difficult for us. For once, for example, we do not have the capabilities of determining whether, for example, a document presented for us is actually legit or not. If, for example, a university degree certificate has been presented to us, and there's a letter from a Commission on University Education confirming that that degree is actually okay, we have no base of actually saying that this document is actually not true. And for example, if EACC, for example, were to say that this person should not be cleared, for example, like the documents that they provided to us in terms of listing of people that ought not to have been cleared, but at the same time, the self-declaration forms were actually given to them. It gives us very difficult, it puts us in a very difficult position as to which view should we take. The view that they have actually given us in terms of the self-declaration that they have given to the candidates, or the report they have given us. So it puts us at cross purposes. And therefore, for us, it makes our life very, very difficult. But for us, what is guiding us is the compliance checks that we have provided the returning officers. It's just a matter of ticking box in terms of whether these candidates miss these requirements or not. That is actually what made our life a little bit easier. But you can see now the issues that it has raised. Matters have been taken to court. And when they have been taken to court, we've got very little time for us to print the ballot papers. And therefore, it puts us in a very awkward position in terms of preparation as far as the logistics is concerned.
What would you want to see moving forward to correct all these troubles that you're having?
Maybe I would like to see that we have got the laws provide clarity. For example, in terms of hearing and determining cases after DRC, maybe they should be given time limit within which they should actually hear those cases and determine. Because if today we can still continue hearing cases regarding nominations, and they may have bearing in terms of printing of the ballot papers, then it's going to still, even if we continue this way, we'll have problem in future.
Okay. Well, just before we exit this question of integrity, last week there was a story in the Daily Nation that puts questions of integrity on you as the chairperson and linking you to Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula. And a direct question, both of you have rubbished it as saying that you're both Bukusus and come from Bungoma. But a direct question is, have you ever been to Wetangula's home?
His home? Where?
Yes. In Nairobi or in Bungoma?
Well, I've not been to Wetangula's home, but I don't think then that issue, I look at it as profiling myself, and this seems to be an ongoing thing. There is a deliberate move to profile staff of IEBC, commissioners, staff, and it is a serious social campaign ongoing, and it's actually very sad that at this point in time, then you have people who are hell-bent on trying to profile commissioners, staff, so for purposes which we don't understand. So I think it's unfortunate, and I think it's an issue then that people who are behind it need to stop.
So these are just basically detractors who want to derail your pursuit of a free and fair election?
Let me put it this way. If you look at even our staff in the commission, especially ICT and election, they are now frightened because of so many, you see in this, most of the media, I mean the press, the gutter press you see their photos on all of these gutter presses, social media posts.
Okay.
And it's coming at this time where now our staff are afraid. Don't forget, it was around this time on the 28th of July, 5 years ago, when our ICT staff was murdered. And this then becomes a very, very frightening moment that you have the chairman of the commission, commissioners, staff then being profiled. And I think it is, I just want to urge the people behind it.
Chairman.
So you would basically
stop doing what they're doing.
You'd basically dare, because Junet stood on a platform and said that they would produce documentation that is linking you to Wetangula or some of the staff at IEBC, you would actually dare them to table any evidence they have.
Like yesterday. Let him produce whatever documentation he has.
Chairman,
because I know for a fact that those allegations are false, and whatever allegations are being leveled against
some of them. Before I let Kamche ask a question on the next topic, that is the election process and the preparedness, CEO, we know that you've said, or that has been said by the Commission, that in this election, yes, there will be a manual register, but it will be a last option. And the explanation has been that in 2017, or maybe in previous elections, there are some poll officials that colluded with locals to make people that never turned up at the polling stations to vote. How rampant was that, and why did it happen?
First of all, this observation was made after the post-election evaluation was actually done. Remember, in post-election evaluation, the evaluation is not only done by external parties, but also it also includes our staff. And that is amongst one of the observations that was actually made. But if you look at it practically, it makes sense because you are looking at a situation whereby you are using two sets of registers at the same time. Mm-hmm. One is electronic and one is actually digital. So somebody is actually being identified biometrically, and at the same time also you are knocking off the name from the register. Mm-hmm. And therefore it provides that opportunity, even if it was not exploited, but it provides that opportunity that there is a risk that in certain areas, particularly in strongholds, it is possible for even people to collude and to...
So a suspicion, or it actually happened?
No, that is just basically, I'm talking about an opportunity.
Okay. No, what I'm asking is, because for it to influence a policy decision by IEBC, it has to be a serious thing. So did it happen, or you suspect it can happen?
No, one of the things that actually leads to pointer of that is when you look at for example, the presidential ballot paper, the ones that were actually casted, you could not be able to reconcile with the other position. It was actually more than that, and therefore that speaks to the fact that maybe at some point there was mechanically actually casting of the ballot, and you could also be able to see it statistically that at a certain point of time, because we are taking a note of who has actually appeared in the polling session, the turnout at a certain point was actually very high compared to certain periods, and therefore that actually now proves scientifically our suspicion.
You cannot pinpoint a case.
No, there was no case.
Has it happened before, perhaps?
No, okay. This was only I've been in this commission since 2015, and therefore that was
let me go to the chairperson.
First election.
Based on the institutional memory, then, Chairman, has it happened before, or are these changes out of fear that it could happen?
Let me put it this way: after the 2017 elections, we embarked on a post-election evaluation. This is a massive exercise involving all our 290 constituency staff, all the 47 county staff, and all stakeholders. And some of these issues actually came out in those stakeholder engagement. So you cannot then say we have statistics of what happened or what did not happen. But these are general expressions which were made in the stakeholder engagements, which then informed the post-election evaluation report.
Okay, Chairperson, I want to dwell on this subject because it's very important. And the Commission has made it clear that the electronic voter register will be the priority and the manual voter register will be the last resort or the option thereof. Have you done due diligence on Smartmatic International, the company you had procured its services to provide the KIMS kits?
Before I come to this company procurement, which I'll ask the CEO to comment on because procurement is a function of the management, I just want to say that in 2017, on the 4th of August, the High Court in the Court of Appeal in the case of NASA versus IEBC outlined what then constitutes the verification process. And in that case, the first issue then is biometric verification. If biometric verification fails, then there's alphanumeric search of the details, which involves just an ID number being used then to procure the details of the voter. And if that fails, then you resort then to a fiscal register. That is in the law, and that law was made on 4th of August 2017, overriding then all the other issues which are there. Now, if we can move on from there and then say that for the KIMS kits then to fail, we have other kits that are available for replacement. And then if you look at that as a commission, we are not coming from just, it's not our decision, it's what actually is provided for by that judgment. And that's how we come up with this framework. But on the issue of procurement, due diligence, I think...
Allow me then to go to the Chief Executive Officer, because this area needs a lot of clarity about the Chief Executive Officer. And I ask you again, what level of due diligence did you do on Smartmatic International Corporation?
First of all, I want to agree with the chairman that one is the procurement process was actually done above board. It was actually an open tender.
Okay.
And there is a committee that was actually appointed by myself as the accounting officer to do the evaluation of this tender. They are the same committee that are also responsible for doing due diligence. So before even award, there was actually due diligence that was actually done. And this actually involved going to places where actually they did election before. Okay. And to interview those specific countries where actually it happened. Okay. And also going to the specific areas where this farm exists. Okay. So those are two things that were actually done, and they produce a report in terms of what actually they observed.
One final question, yes. Chief Executive Officer. Then during your meetings, you talked about the procurement process in awarding the company, in procuring its services. Did you know that the Cybercrime Investigation and the Coordinating Center, CICC, in the Philippines, after the 2016 elections, called on the Smartmatics? It compromised the elections, which led to the election of President Rodrigo Duterte. Did you know that in Uganda, the biometric voter kits failed, forcing the election officials to revert to the manual voter system? Did you know that in Venezuela, in Latin America, in 2017, Smartmatic on its own acknowledged that the turnout voter figures were manipulated by at least 1 million voters? Did you establish this before you awarded the contract?
No, because I rely on the evaluation committee after they do the due diligence and they provide me with the report. That is what I rely on. And therefore, these other news about that you are providing now are things that I was not even aware about.
So the report you awarded never cited these issues?
These issues were never cited.
But this is a company that is seriously indicted by a cybercrime agents of a country.
This, I think, it would require the company to respond, because I don't have a...
But you're already in agreement with them?
Yes, it's because this information did not even come to our attention. You are actually saying that, and it's not even confirmed. This probably will be based on information that you've been able to search maybe from the internet and the rest. And I think it would be proper at this particular time if this question can be actually directed to the respective company for them. No. I cannot speak on their behalf.
Let me just finish up before Kamche comes in. One final question then, Chief Executive Officer. The chairperson earlier on talked about preparation process when I queried about how the agency ought to be a unit going forward. And we know all the disenfranchisement after the 2017 elections. You had 5 years before you procured this company. You never did due diligence. I mean, elections in Kenya have high stakes, and we're heading into a consequential elections that will determine the next president of this country and across all the elected positions. I mean, this is, in the understanding of many Kenyans, you not doing your job.
No, let me put it very clearly. This is a procurement process. You only commence procurement process upon provision of the budget. The budget for the purpose of general election was provided in 2021-2022, July. And therefore, that is the time when you can start procuring a vendor. You cannot be able to anticipate that 5 years later, I'm going to procure Citizen TV. You will only start procuring, and remember I said this is actually open tender. So the people who are going to participate in that tender is the ones that we are going to evaluate. So you cannot guess.
But even before procuring Citizen TV, you will have already known what has been said about them before.
No, I was just giving giving a Citizen as one.
Bwana CEO, tusonge mbele. Swali langu litakuwa ni kuhusu elektroniki, sajili ya elektroniki na sajili ya kawaida ile tunasema ni manual yenye imekuwa printed. Tumeona kuna mvutano Azimio wakiwa wanataka kuwe na ile sajili ya yenye printed na nyinyi mnavutia kwamba mtabaki na electronic, lakini tumesikia kwamba mawakili na wale wataalamu wanasema kwamba pia elektroniki iko prone to manipulation, na nyinyi mnajaribu kukimbilia elektroniki, manake mnasema manual nayo iko na urahisi wa kwamba watu wanaweza kudodge numbers pale ama figures na wabadilishe majibu. Kwa nini? Na tunajua kwamba sheria kando na ile ambayo Bwana Chebukati anasema kwamba mwaka 2017 kama sijakosea kulikuwa na ile ruling ya Court of Appeal kwamba mtafuata hii sheria, lakini sheria yenyewe inasema kwamba lazima kuwe na ile complementary system ambayo ni manual. Lakini nyinyi tunaona mnajitoa pale mkisema kwamba mnataka kuondoa kudojiwa kwa namba, lakini tunajua pia upande wa elektroniki inaweza kuwa prone to manipulation. Unaweza kujitetea vipi pengine?
Kwanza nataka kusema kuwa sisi hatukatazi watu kutuelezea kuhusu hisia zao. Kama kuna watu wako na tashwishi kuhusu zile kits ambao tutatumia ama mfumo ule tutatumia, ni mzuri wakituelezea ndo tupate kuweza kuwaeleza utaratibu wake, waelewe kwa nini tunasema tufanye hivi na sivyo vile wanavyotakao. Kwa hivyo hatuna ubaya na wale ambao wanasema ya kuwa tunafikiria kuwa pengine kuwe na hii sajili ya manual. Na sisi hatujakataa kuwa kusiwe na sajili ya manual, lakini tunasema ya kuwa hiyo itakuwa ni kitu cha mwisho ambacho tutumie baada ya kuwa kama kutakuwa na failure technology, kama technology itakuwa haiwezi kufanya kazi. Na sheria ilisema kama vile chairman alisema kuwa tukizungumzia kuhusu complementary mechanism ni kwa sababu ukienda pale ukitaka ku-identify lazima utumie vidole vyako. Vidole vyako vinaweza kuwa si vizuri kwa sababu ya zile kazi unazofanya. Kwa hivyo kama itakuwa si vizuri, kuna njia nyingine mkabala ambao unaweza kutumia. Tutatumia kitambulisho chako, tutatumia namba zako, tutakuangalia na ile information yako tutaweza kuiona pale kwenye tukiiona basi tutakuruhusu wewe upige kura. Lakini kama itaharibika kabisa ule mtambo, basi sisi tutaenda mwanzo tuko na backups kits ambao tunaweza kuzitumia pia. Lakini pia kama tutaishiwa kabisa, tutatumia hiyo sajili.
Nadhani upande wa Azimio unaelewa hilo, lakini kwa nini mnaona wanasukuma? Nadhani ni nini wanasukuma kuwe na hiyo manual register?
Wao nafikiri wamejieleza vizuri ya kuwa hawataki kuwa mtu aende kwenye polling station na asiruhusiwe kupiga kura kwa sababu ya kuwa pengine teknolojia haikufanya kazi. Na hayo sisi tunakubaliana. Sisi tunataka kila mmoja akienda kwenye polling station akubaliwe apige kura, mradi ya kuwa yeye ni mmoja wa wapiga kura. Na hapo tunakubaliana kabisa.
I have follow-up questions and I want to be more specific on Section 44 of the Elections Act. But first, because you're answering that, I'll go to 44A. I want you to explain to me before I go to the chairman, 44A, what complementary system means, because the law says this. Notwithstanding the provision of the two sections 39 and 44, the Commission shall put in place a complementary mechanism for identification of voters and the transmission of elections. Let's talk about identification of the voters. How can technology, how can the same system that we're talking about be complementary in that it's a KIMS-kit? So I can't use my thumb or my finger, but you want to make it look like my ID with the same technology is complementary. Could this section also have meant that a complementary system could be this manual register and not necessarily part of that technology that we are saying? It's the KIMS-kit, it's the technology, it's everything, but let's get something aside from this. So aside from this, could it not be that this section contemplated the register, the book?
Maybe, but I think the chairman has explained that there's a court ruling. There was a civil appeal number 258, whereby and in that ruling actually it set aside the sections of the law you are talking about, and actually it affirmed the procedures we actually explained in the memo that was provided then. So to that extent, we want to associate ourselves with that procedure. When you talk about biometric versus biographic, the default method when you go to the polling sessions is for you to use biometric, because biometrics are actually unique. You know, even your ID you can actually share with somebody else. Do you know that?
The number.
Yes, and therefore the default that is actually unique completely is your biometric.
Okay.
But in case it fails, because we have also captured your picture, we have your details, when you actually enter your ID, you can be able to retrieve the information. We'll see your actually photo there. Suppose also you don't have hands, we should also have a workaround method of identifying differently.
Okay.
And that's why we are saying that complementary should also be in terms of your biographics, not necessarily your biometrics.
Okay.
Therefore, when you enter your ID details, you can be able to retrieve your information. You can say, this is Mijungu. And we should allow you to go and vote because of that.
All right. That having been said, they say I'd like to go to section 44 now 4, which talks about this election technology being deployed 120 days, tested, tried, and all that. I mean, as at now, with 26 days left, I put it to you that none of this comes, knows the kind of technology. Your own test failed. I hear there's another test that you're planning, but it failed. Now, the law that you're saying that you want to associate yourself with that particular one, there's an argument that it could be convenient for you because if you look at it, you're speaking the same language as one of the candidates. That aside, the law is specific on the number of days that this technology can be deployed and it can be tested. That did not happen. So, Chairman, what is the confidence in this system as at now with 26 days left that you're giving the candidates?
Now, you said what did not happen. Technology was procured 120 days to the elections. We had procured a service provider. We procured the equipment that we are supposed to use, and that's what the law says.
Yeah.
Procuring the service provider and the technology to be used. That technology was procured 120 days before 120 days to the election.
Talk to us about 44B, 44.4B now, which says test, verify, and deploy.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Verify and deploy.
Yes.
We had a simulation.
Which failed, Chair.
Okay, you can't say it failed. It was not to the expectations of the stakeholders. And then we have worked on around it. We took feedback from the stakeholders, and we are going to have another simulation, I think, sometimes this week or next week.
Yeah, next week.
Early next week. The team has actually worked on it, and today they even took the commission through what they have done, and we are satisfied that we are on the right track. So I think we shall invite you and the stakeholders here.
But maybe allow me to weigh in on what the chairman has said, because when you talk about testing, yes, it's 60 days before the election. We actually, and I want to demonstrate this, because that system is what? The system that is envisaged is verification, results transmission, and registration. Registration you had already completed using Morpho kits.
Yeah.
Because enrollment was actually done before we procured the technology. So we are actually talking about two systems that needs to be tested. Which ones are they? Results transmission and identification.
Okay.
During verification, when actually we provided this opportunity to people for them to go and verify their details, which systems were we using? We were using the new system, and therefore we provided opportunity. It was tested, and actually it was working because guys were going there and they are verifying their details. What was remaining was only the results transmission. Okay. And this is actually what we tested here. Maybe the stakeholders were not happy with the outcome, but actually we tested it here. Okay. And that's why, because of that outcome, we said we are going to give the country another test, and that's what we are preparing.
The reason why, my last question on this, you explained, but I see 44 says, and this is what the court said, notwithstanding, you talked about repealing those sections. So notwithstanding, to me, it's notwithstanding the technology, right? There should be another one. So if you look at this strictly with the law, I mean, it's not even implied, it's explicit. Notwithstanding is explicit. Notwithstanding this, the other one should be there as complementary. So when you insist that you want to associate yourself with that particular section, explain to me why 44A says notwithstanding.
You cannot read the legislation in isolation.
I know that.
But again, let's be cautious here, because there's again a matter in the High Court on the same issue. We don't know what the court is going to decide on this matter. That's why we said as a commission, we shall print the register and have it available and await the outcome of that court decision.
So there's a possibility we'll have both of them, again, depending on this.
When it comes to the court, as I said, we shall implement the court order.
Want to see you.
But allow me to address this, because you know it's a very contentious issue.
Yes.
What makes you think that the physical register is not a complementary system? What makes you think it is not? Can I ask you why you think so? When you say we are going to print, it's going to be available and it's going to be the last resort, it is still a complementary. When the technology has failed completely, we are going to use that register. So why are you saying that it's not complementary system?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. My argument is what she said. Azimio is pushing one, and then Kenya Kwanza is pushing another one. And it seems the IEBC, because of the foregoing reasons that you have explained, prone to manipulation and all, they are considering only, and the chairman has made this clear, they want only those present at the polling station to vote. Now with the manual one, like a book, you can vote. You can see the people who have not voted, their ID numbers are there, and they can key into the system and vote for them. So that's why you want it out. So I never said myself it's not. But my question is, why is it that there's a contention within this, yet the law, section 44A, is very clear, even based on that code of honor, notwithstanding 39, which talks about it explicitly also, right? Notwithstanding. So my contention was notwithstanding. And the other one, why do you want technology? Why do you want my computer to be complementary instead of just bringing the manual one?
The manual. Na tunafahamu kwamba sajili
ndo tuku-identify. Lakini kama mimi kazi yangu hapa ni kumechanically ku-cross, pia naona wale wengine hawajapiga kura, then ina provide opportunity ambao mtu anaweza kuja sasa na ndo tunasema ya kuwa presiding officer, kwa sababu ni temporary official, ni mzuri ya kuwa akifanya ile kazi hajui ni nani ambaye hajakuja. Lakini ukijipresent, ukija na ID yako, na vidole vyako, then utakuwa identify.
Kwa hivyo kuna nafasi ama kuna nafasi ya kwamba mwisho wa siku ya kupiga kura, huenda ikawa hii sajili ambayo ni imeprintiwa, huenda ikawa haitatumika.
Kama mtambo hautaharibika, mimi sioni kwa nini tutumie.
CEO, I want us to make progress because there are two interventions that are coming from Abubakar and Ken. But before that, this election, because if you recall what happened in 2017, part of the reason there are problems at the Supreme Court is because of the polling stations that could not transmit results from their polling stations. They said that there are several that transmitted from non-gazetted polling stations. Recently, you've told us that you've procured at least 1,111 satellite modems to take care of areas that are affected. Commissioner Gulia here said that you are the sympathy of the mobile network operators. If network does not cooperate on that day, whether by design or by accident, how then are we sure that you're going to receive transmission from all these polling stations at a time that your first trial was 40% successful, Chairman?
Yeah, thank you for that. We have actually been working on that. As you rightly put it, the report from Communication Authority said 1,111 polling centers will not transmit. I and the CEO have actually held meetings with the mobile network operators, all the Safaricom, Telecom, and Airtel, and we are working. There's a technical team working around that. So where there's no 3G, then we shall deploy the satellite devices, which we have for purpose of that transmission. So I think that's, as a commission, we are...
That's fine, yes. But the Constitution gives the mandate to IEBC to conduct an election, not mobile network operators. So if the technology does not work on that day, and your satellite modems are just 1,000 and a few hundreds, what then for the other polling stations? Can they transmit results from outside the polling stations?
Well, Marjan, maybe you can comment it, but as we have been saying, IEBC cannot do the election on its own.
Okay.
We need other stakeholders to come in, and that's why we engage suppliers. Mobile network operators are part of the suppliers. We have contracts with them. And the issue of internet connectivity is not for IEBC. They are enablers. Yes.
Bwana CEO,
can do that.
There are questions that are coming up.
Can I first of all try to
respond? Yes.
Okay. Just let him respond.
What I want you to understand is that this situation of network rollout is not unique to only this country. I don't think there's a country that has got 100% rollout of 3G and 4G. So it is not unique to us. It is something that we envisage to be in many other countries. And therefore, there must be solution where, for example, there is no network. There must be possibility of where actually the presiding officer can actually move to another place and be able to transmit the same. This, what we have done is to ensure that at each and every tallying center, the 290 tallying center at the constituency, they will have actual network. And in addition to that, we are talking about 1,111 centers. Centers, within a center, there are polling stations. A school, for example, is a center. Within that school, there will be several classes which are going to be polling station. If we provide one satellite modem in that specific area, it will provide wireless network to all those classes. And I want to believe that at the end of the day, they should be able to transmit. All those polling stations in that area should be able to transmit. But it is possible that certain areas may still have difficulties in terms of having 3G and 4G. Where that is the case, the presiding official should actually be able to transmit the same at the tallying center. Well, that to me, I don't see it as an issue.
I thought they were locked to a specific polling station to avoid tampering. So, for example, if I'm voting here, my gadget should not work beyond here. So if I move it to another polling station, or they're not locked, they're open, you can come with it to Nairobi and transmit from here.
Of course, you can. You know, it is. You know what you are talking about is actually geofencing.
Okay.
And geofencing is actually where you lock the device to a specific place.
When I see you now, the good thing is,
you lock it to us.
Are they locked?
Yeah.
My question now summarizes what they are all coming up with. And the question, during a meeting you had with the presidential candidates where both of you were represented by yourselves, you brought in the usage of an SD card.
Yes.
Number one, question one, how safe is this SD card? Can someone make another one from River Road? Number two, now that you have, by admission, said that that KM's kit can be moved to another place for transmission, and the question that has been asked by Ken, and another one that has been brought up by Sam Gituku, where there were cases in the other election where ungazetted polling station transmitted results. Are we looking at the possibility of somebody else who has a similar SD card transmitting from the same area, but not the polling station where it has been put in? Number three, you've said that there will be 6 extra kits at a polling station. Do each and every of these come with its own SD card, or an SD card will be removed from one and put to the other in an effort to make sure that there is continuity? And number four, on the same.
No, can we, you see, you're asking too many questions. Okay, let's go one by one.
Still on the SD card.
Yes, go ahead. Because, first of all, SD card is actually encrypted. The information that is inside the SD card is encrypted. It means that even if you get that SD card, it will be useless piece of information. For you to be able to access information that SD card, you need to use the QR code for that polling station for you to actually be able to lock it to that polling station. So even if you are to get that SD card, it is going to be a useless piece of information. You cannot come up with your own SD card from River Road and come and insert it in our kit. It will not work. I wanted also to provide you assurance on the issue of results transmission. You see, you are going to transmit at the polling station, but if there is no network, it will actually display that this result has not been sent. If you are to leave that kit on and you are to move with it as you are going to the tallying center, suppose it were to get the network.
Okay.
It will basically transmit it, but it will give you the coordinates, the GPS coordinate of the place where those results were actually transmitted. Now you can even choose to switch it off and switch it on at the tallying center. When you switch it on at the tallying center, of course, there's going to be network. It's going to be able to transmit that results.
So in 2017, the challenge then was a question of polling stations were transmitted from non-gazetted polling stations. How have you secured that, knowing that your regulations were defeated or were thrown out by Parliament?
So first of all, that's why I said you need to appreciate that our country cannot be covered. The telecommunication service provider, MNOs, are actually business entities. They are driven by profit. They will go to places where it makes business sense. They will not go to places where it doesn't make business sense.
And that is clear.
So it is
no doubt about that.
And therefore, there must be room. And here we are talking about budgetary constraints here. Because to buy Thuraya kits, the satellite kits, last time, it costed us around 1 billion shillings. We can't be spending 1 billion shillings for temporary. Let me finish first of all, because you need to give me time to respond, isn't it?
Yes.
So where it is not possible to transmit because, one, maybe we do not have a Thuraya phone. Two, there is no 3G or 4G. These results must be transmitted at any other point. That is something that we must realize. It has to happen. So the issue of gazetted, a gazetted center or ungazetted centers, I want to believe that maybe at some point, because it even happened. For example, if you look at when we did the by-election for Kibra, we were to do the election at the secondary school. But because of the examination, we had to move the polling center from there to open ground. So, but we had to gazette that. It is possible at that particular time in 2017, maybe at the time whereby we were just near the election, they actually moved to different place and did not get time to gazette the same. So at that particular time, they were transmitted in those areas. But at this time, we've made arrangements to ensure that all the centers and polling stations are actually gazetted.
Before a point gets lost,
follow up there.
Yes,
the SD card.
Yes, will all the 6 kits.
SD card is just one for that polling station. If a kit malfunctions, we remove the SD card and use it now in another kit, which will be available.
And in the case,
and there may be one other thing, the issue about transmission. The KIMS kit is enabled only to transmit the form 4A that will be filled and signed at the polling. It cannot transmit any other thing other than that form. It cannot transmit any other document other than that form, and it only transmits once. Once the send is done, that's it. It cannot transmit anything else.
So you're confirming that all the other kits are not coming with SD cards?
No, they will not, because you see, to provide that simple swap, once the kit has failed, it cannot work. What you need to do is basically just to remove the SD card. And maybe the SIM cards, because it has got primary SIM card and the secondary SIM card. Then just insert them in the kit. You power it on. You take the QR code and it's on. The information still is resident in the SD card.
One of the primary concerns that came out during your meeting with the presidential candidates was the United Democratic Alliance and Kenya Kwanza by extension did not have so much of a problem with the usage of these biometrics. But one question was raised by the presidential candidate and the Secretary General of UDA, Veronica Maina, where they requested if there was a possibility that political parties would oversee the process of what is being fed into the KIEMS kit. Is it still an open invitation to them? And in line with that, is that what will also be on the manual register in the event that it is put there as a last resort? That's what they wanted to confirm.
Yes, we actually did discuss the same in our meeting, and we did actually agree that we'll allow them to go and visit. In fact, even as we speak, the first round of membership from those presidential candidates actually visited our warehouse and they saw the work. They were very impressed with the work that was going on. And we've even agreed that we will still continue allowing them to go and observe what is happening there. Even during the time when we are actually now preparing, we are duplicating the stickers that will be used for the purpose of our
Okay, Chairperson.
Chairman and CEO, we need to be winding up. We need an intervention from Abu Bakar because it's just out of time.
All right, Chairman, my colleagues are making reference to 2017. One, because it was the last general election, and two, because there was an election nullified. Part of the reasons as to why the Supreme Court held its decision of nullifying that election was the hesitancy by IEBC to open the server. Nearly 5 years later, you are still the chairman of IEBC. To the millions of Kenyans who are watching us tonight, can you explain to them why IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, and the commission was hesitant to open the server?
Is still hesitant.
That is not true. We were not hesitant to open the server.
But that is the reason as to why the Supreme Court nullified that election.
Yes, the server was opened. There were 14 orders by the Supreme Court. And giving access to the teams then that had come to the, were sent to have access to the server, it took time to create access rights because the company then that was involved is also does a lot of security work for other institutions. But
Chairman,
let me answer your question.
Election.
Let me answer your question.
You're saying the company was
the
busy
access rights were
server?
provided at around 3 p.m. And by that time, I think the parties had already left.
This was a consequential contest, an election that almost got the country into the brink of what could have been the worst. The country's Supreme Court ordered you open the server. You must have been in communication with the company that was holding the server on your behalf.
So have I not answered you? I'm saying the server access rights were given.
Okay.
It's 2017 is now is in the past. We are now talking of 2022. And what you should be asking me is how have we prepared for 2022? I think that's the conversation we should be having.
With respect, I'll ask you how you are prepared for 2022. The past is equally important. This has been contentious. It nearly divided the country. It put IEBC, the commission, and
there was a fresh presidential election in 2017. The commission enforced what then had been was the judgment of the first judgment, the nullification. Everything that was done in that nullification case was then implemented in the fresh presidential election, and that's what we are now running with. So let's not dwell on 2017. Let's
Chairman,
as we finalize, should you be ordered by the Supreme Court in the next 27, 28 days to open the server? What confidence are you assuring Kenyans that you will have the ability to open the server?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, I want to tell Kenyans tonight that the main server is at the polling station. That's where the focus is. That's where the media will be. That's where the agents of candidates will be. We are telling everybody the result is at the polling station.
Okay,
Number one.
Chairman and CEO.
No, let me first of all provide clarity on that issue, because I think it's creating some tension. Listen, in fresh presidential election, we did not wait to be asked to provide. We actually provided. So we are not going to wait to be asked. We will actually open that server.
And that was in the fresh. Why did you not open before the fresh? Because the court wanted you to open.
Yes, okay, but so we learn from mistakes. We also make mistakes. I want to believe you also. So listen.
And that mistake was the elections were bungled, isn't it? It was a heavy mistake. You can just
listen. You want to focus on the negative side. Let us focus on the positive side.
It's accountability. It's not negativity, actually.
No, and that's why we are accountable for the same. We are telling you that, and the chairman explained that the reason why there was delay is because of the formalities. For you to be given access right today, there's a formality for you to do.
Was it difficult?
You have actually there are some formalities. You have to file an application. Right. There are some forms that you need to file in order for you to be provided the access right. So it happened that it was provided late, but nevertheless we learned from that.
Okay, CEO.
Yes.
Now it's 3 minutes to 11. All these TV stations will hang me if I don't end this interview by 11 o'clock. So we have 2 questions. First, KPMG report, when are you releasing it? What is in that you don't want the people to know? And secondly, how will Kenyans follow the results of the presidential election at a time that no text results are being transmitted? We're just transmitting images. How will they follow from the National Tallying Center? What's going on? Any of you can take it.
And thirdly, as we finish this, there's the question of our elections and how they might get rowdy at times. And you have admitted that there's a probability that at one polling station there will only be one SD card. What if in the rowdy mess that happens, somebody runs away with the KMS kit that has the SD card?
I think you
Let's go ahead, Chairman.
take the other one. I'll do the last one.
So am I to start first? Or?
Yes, go ahead.
That one.
Yeah.
I start with the last one.
Yes.
Yeah, we said that why we are saying that you use the SD card that is actually in the polling station is because it already has the information. It has information regarding the register. It is possible that, as you are saying, that people may actually run with that. If it happens, then the complementary method you are talking about, if it's going to be very, very difficult to actually get another SD card, we have the physical register. So I don't think it should be an issue per se.
Okay.
But I want to believe that there are policemen, we have got 2 policemen in the polling station. So if a Kim's kit fails, we should be able to get the other backup kit, and we'll be able to swap it in front of people as they are seeing.
Please,
Yes, Chairman.
CEO and Chairman, deal with the 2 questions, KPMG
report.
and how Kenyans will follow results. Any of you can take it.
Yes, Chairman.
Maybe the CEO can comment on that. But as a commission, we have instructed management then to release the KPMG report. What they were working on was the implementation matrix, because we are alive to the fact that in this country, if we don't tell Kenyans what we have done about the report, then the media houses will be more full of what we have not done. So I think the CEO has worked on it.
Okay.
Perhaps he can comment on when it's
Lakini
going
mbona hiyo
on.
report imechelewa na tayari mshachapisha sajili ya wapiga kura pia?
Let me say this. I think I stated it. I think it was last weekend, if I'm not wrong. Is when we said that when we had the media briefing here, we said that it is good to give that report, but you're also going to ask us what have you done, and therefore it is also important for us to show you what we have actually done regarding the recommendations, because we've also taken you through the report, isn't it? When it was actually released.
No, you have not.
We did.
A 1 page.
CEO not in full.
Yes. I know you want the detailed report.
Yes.
But the executive summary that we gave you actually basically covered everything. The question is now.
Release.
Yes?
You gave a press release.
Press statements that we did. Chief.
Yes, we took you through the executive summary of the report, which by and large actually covered the issues. But nevertheless, we are not saying that we are not going to give you the report. We are saying that we want to give you a report in terms of also what we have done.
Okay.
And you know that also we've been doing a lot of activities back and back since that time up to now. Even now you are engaging us up to 11 now. So please, we are also human beings. We need to rest, we need to work.
Okay.
And therefore, we had promised that we are going to release it possibly by end of this week. Today we are on Wednesday.
So we'll have the KPMG report on the voter register.
That is actually what you had promised.
Okay.
Together with the implementation matrix of what
The last question
Commission
on
has
how
done.
Kenyans will follow results, knowing that text results will not be coming to the National Tallying Center.
Yes, we have the results will be in the public portal, and I also wanted to assure that the security that we want to deploy in terms of results transmission is actually solid, because we are going to use what we refer to as a virtual private network. We are going to use GSM, but we are going to have another layer of network, which is called VPN, and in that layer is where we are going to transmit the results. You can be able to transmit the results only after you've captured the image of the results, which has got a QR code.
Okay.
So the kit will not allow you to capture any other information apart from that, because it has a QR code dedicated to that form.
CEO, that was very well explained by yourself and the chairman. But the specific question, because we have just a minute to the end, Kenyans want to access presidential election results. You have said that parties and candidates can do parallel tallying by themselves.
Yes.
But Kenyans need to trust IEBC. How will they know how their candidates are faring on a regular basis at a time that you've said there will be no text results?
We have an arrangement with the media guys. We are saying deploy to the constituents or even the polling stations, and you report those results. And I think
so there will be no results from the National Tallying Center until you have every document from the polling stations.
For us at the National Tallying Center, we shall get the results and project them as soon as they come in. So there are various levels of information which will go to the country.
You'll project upon? What do you need to do before you project?
We shall verify and project.
Okay.
All right. 10 seconds. Public stream.
No, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for more questions, but you can see, Chairman and CEO, that there is so much interest in this topic. These are just the journalists. You can imagine what Kenyans are saying.
Can arrange another session.
Yes, we should. We should actually to get into more details about this. And thank you so much, Chairman Wafula Chebukati, for making time for us, as well as Chief Executive Officer Marjan Hussein Marjan. I keep getting confused about that name. Ken Mijungu from KTN News, and of course Abubakar Abdullahi from TV47, Kamche Medza from KBC Channel 1, and of course Ayub Abdul Kadir from K24, and Kennedy Muridi for making time for us to have this conversation. Of course, you've been watching a live interview and engagement with the leadership of the IEBC as a commission with 26 days to the general election. We hope that you've been able to get some information that is helpful for you to know what's going on, and we'll continue doing this, asking questions in our respective media houses. Of course, this has been coming to you live from different channels, TV channels, including those represented here. My name is Sam Gituku from Citizen TV. Good night.